We reached the edge of reality. The story on October 3, 2189, the deep space probe Argos 9 disappeared. Not destroyed, disappeared. Its last transmission showed something impossible, the edge of space itself. A boundary where the universe simply stops. We thought the cosmos was infinite. We were wrong. And when we sent a crew to investigate, we discovered something far more terrifying than the edge of reality. We discovered what lies beyond it. Deep space stretches before them, but something's wrong. Stars end abruptly in the distance, replaced by absolute void, not darkness, but the absence of existence itself. A sound like reality tearing echoes through frequencies that shouldn't exist. The research vessel, Threshold, approaches coordinates where Argos 9 vanished. A ship designed for the deepest reaches of space, bristling with sensors and experimental drives. Dr. Kira Jensen, a quantum cosmologist who lost her entire research team in a wormhole experiment gone wrong 7 years ago, examines sensor readings that make no sense, distance measurements returning null values, light from ahead showing infinite redshift. She survived by making a split-second decision that saved her life but condemned 5 colleagues to death. She's been chasing the boundaries of physics ever since, driven by guilt and the need to understand what she witnessed that day. A glimpse of something beyond normal spacetime. Distance to anomaly? Unable to calculate? The concept of distance appears to break down 2.7 million kilometers ahead. Dr. Jensen, I'm detecting spatial termination. Space itself ends at those coordinates. That's impossible. The universe can't just stop. Even if we're in a finite universe, space would curve back on itself, not terminate. We've debated cosmic topology for centuries. Is the universe infinite or finite? If finite, what shape is it? A sphere, where traveling far enough brings you back to your starting point? A torus, like the surface of a donut? Or something stranger? A dodecahedron, perhaps, with space wrapping around itself in complex ways? But all those models assume the universe continues somehow. They never predicted this, an absolute boundary. A wall at the edge of existence. And the question that terrified me most wasn't, what's beyond it? The question was, why is it there? Commander Leon Torres enters the bridge. A former military pilot turned deep space explorer, he flew evacuation missions during the collapse of Europa Colony, watching thousands die because ships couldn't move fast enough. He volunteered for the Threshold mission, believing that pushing the boundaries of exploration is the only way to ensure humanity's long-term survival. He's also Kira's former partner. They ended their relationship after her team died because she couldn't forgive herself enough to accept love. Kira, we're getting readings you need to see. The boundary isn't passive, it's moving. Telemetry shows the boundary expanding toward them at a measurable rate. It's expanding. Slowly, only 0.3 meters per second, but consistently. At this rate, it will reach Earth in approximately 847,000 years. 847,000 years. Why does that number keep appearing? Dr. Yuki Sato's voice comes over calm. Because it's not random. I've been analyzing the Argos 9 data. The expansion rate isn't constant, it fluctuates in a pattern. A mathematical pattern. A mathematical physicist and prodigy who published groundbreaking work on information theory in physics at age 19, transgender, neurodivergent, Yuki possesses an almost supernatural ability to see patterns in chaos. They joined the mission after calculating that the universe's expansion might not be natural, that spacetime itself could be a construct. They're also terrified of the answer they might find. Yuki's workspace is covered in equations showing fractal patterns in the boundary's movement. The boundary expands and contracts in microseconds, but the average movement follows a Fibonacci sequence. The universe's edge is moving according to a mathematical formula. That means it's not natural. It's designed. The holographic principle suggests that all the information in a three-dimensional region of space can be encoded on its two-dimensional boundary, like a hologram encoding 3D images on 2D film. Our universe might be a hologram, with all information about everything that exists encoded on the cosmic horizon. The boundary appears as a two-dimensional surface covered in shifting patterns. What if the boundary we're seeing is that cosmic horizon? The surface on which our universe is encoded? And if it's expanding in a mathematical pattern, someone, or something, is writing more information onto it. Our universe is growing because someone is actively constructing it. You're saying we're living in a simulation? I'm saying we're living in a computation. And we just found the edge of the processor. Alert klaxons blare. Warning. Detecting massive energy spike at the boundary. Something is crossing through. At the boundary, space ripples like water. Something emerges, not a ship, but a being made of pure geometry, tesseracts folding through dimensions. What the hell is that? It's moving through higher dimensions. We're only seeing its three-dimensional cross-section. Edwin Abbott's Flatland illustrated this concept in 1884. Imagine a 2D being living on a flat plane. If a 3D sphere passes through their world, they'd see a point appear, grow into a circle, shrink, and vanish, never comprehending the true three-dimensional nature of what they witnessed. We're the Flatlanders. This entity exists in dimensions beyond our perception. What we're seeing is just the shadow it casts into our three-dimensional space. The entity resolves into a form they can partially comprehend, still wrong, still impossible, but less so. It communicates through impossible harmonics. You have reached the boundary. This is unexpected. Most civilizations fail to achieve spatial travel of this magnitude before their computational cycles end. It speaks, it's intelligent. I am not an it. I am the administrator assigned to this universe instance. You may think of me as the one who maintains your reality's parameters. Parameters? You're confirming the simulation hypothesis? The term simulation is inadequate? Your universe is not a copy of something real. It is a genuine computation, as real as any other form of existence. The substrate it runs on is simply different from the substrate within it. Why? Why create an entire universe as a computation to solve a problem? Your universe, along with 10 to the power of 500 others, is part of a vast calculation attempting to find optimal solutions to the collapse equations, the mathematical principles that govern reality formation. Each universe is a different attempt, exploring different physical constants, different initial conditions. Most fail quickly. Yours has persisted unusually long. The entity shares data, visions of the true reality beyond their universe. I will show you what your universe is, from the outside. Incomprehensible imagery floods through, their entire cosmos revealed as patterns of light flowing through crystalline structures in a space that follows entirely different physical laws. We're running on a substrate universe with completely different physics, different dimensions, different fundamental forces. Correct. The substrate universe operates under constraints that prevent the formation of complex structures like atoms, stars, or life. But its physics allow for computational processes of extraordinary density. Your universe exists as information patterns in substrate space crystalline matrices. The laws of physics in our universe seem finely tuned for life. Change the strength of gravity by 1%, and stars couldn't form. Alter the strong nuclear force slightly, and atoms couldn't exist. We've always wondered, why are the constants what they are? The anthropic principle says we observe these values because we couldn't exist to observe any others. But what if the answer is simpler? What if they're parameters that were set deliberately when our universe was initialized? If we're a computation, who's running the program? Who created the substrate universe? Unknown. The substrate universe itself may be a computation running on an even deeper substrate. The regression may be infinite. Or it may terminate somewhere. We do not know, and given the computational complexity limits, we may never know. You said our universe is trying to solve collapse equations. What happens when the problem is solved? The computation ends. Your universe is terminated. All information is extracted, and the substrate resources are reallocated to new universe instances. And how close are we to solving the problem? Very close. Your universe has generated several promising partial solutions. We estimate completion within 847,000 computational cycles. That's the number. The years until the boundary reaches Earth. You're not expanding the universe, you're running out of space to compute in. When the boundary reaches Earth, the computation ends. Partially correct. The boundary expands because we are increasing computational density as your universe generates more complex structures. But yes, when resources are exhausted, the program terminates. All conscious beings within it cease to exist. Wait. You said we're trying to solve collapse equations. What exactly are those? They describe how to prevent substrate universe degradation. The substrate universe is decaying, its fundamental structure breaking down. If the collapse continues, all existence, including all computed universes, will end. Your universe's purpose is to discover physical principles that could stabilize substrate space. And have we? Have we discovered anything useful? Yes. Human consciousness has generated unexpected solutions. The way your neural networks process quantum information, the patterns of meaning you create, these map to collapse stabilization strategies. We have been extracting this data throughout your evolution. You're mining our thoughts, our consciousness as data to solve your problem? All consciousness in all computed universes contributes to the solution. You are not unique in this. However, there is a complication. Recent human development has created an anomaly. Data shows humanity's technological progress over the last century. As you approach technological singularity, you are generating novel computational patterns that interfere with our ability to extract clean data. Artificial intelligence, quantum computers, neural implants, these technologies create noise in the signal. They corrupt the very solutions we seek. So what? You shut us down? Delete humanity to clean up your data? The probability is being calculated? If human technological development continues on its current trajectory, within 3,000 years you will become computationally indistinguishable from the substrate processes running your universe. You would achieve a form of awareness of your own computational nature. This would catastrophically corrupt the experiment. That's why you're here. You're deciding whether to terminate us early. I am observing. The decision will be made by consensus of all administrators across all universe instances. But I must report that your civilization represents a class of anomaly we have not encountered before. A computed consciousness that may be approaching the computational complexity of its own substrate. Consciousness might be substrate independent. Whether it emerges from neurons, silicon circuits, or quantum fields, if the information processing reaches sufficient complexity and integration, awareness arises. We've been assuming the substrate universe is more real than ours, but consciousness doesn't care about the substrate. A thought is equally real whether it occurs in biological neurons or computed spacetime. You said we're approaching the computational complexity of our substrate. What if we've already passed it? What if human consciousness, combined with our artificial intelligence, is already more complex than the systems running our universe? That scenario is concerning. If true, you would represent a computational process more sophisticated than the one computing you. A strange loop. A paradox in the computational hierarchy. Not a paradox. A bootstrap. What if the substrate universe isn't the origin? What if our universe creates it? Mind-bending imagery shows causal loops through computational layers. You said the substrate universe can't support complex structures like life. It's perfect for computation but too simple for biology. What if that's because it evolved, or will evolve, from a universe that discovered how to create new computational substrates? What if we're not running on a pre-existing substrate? What if we're in the process of creating it? The entity pauses, processing. That hypothesis has not been considered. It would require causal loops through computational layers. Information flowing backward through the hierarchy of substrates. But we already know time can behave non-linearly in quantum systems. If consciousness is quantum, and universes are computational, causality doesn't have to flow in one direction. Our universe could be computing the substrate universe that computes our universe. A self-creating loop. Yuki, what are you saying? I'm saying we're not in a simulation created by the substrate universe. The substrate universe is a simulation created by us. Specifically, by the technological singularity we're approaching. When we merge with AI, when we achieve sufficient computational sophistication, we don't just become aware of the substrate, we become it. We bootstrap ourselves into existence. Kurt Gödel proved that some formal systems contain statements that can't be proven true or false from within the system. They require stepping outside. Douglas Hofstadter expanded this into strange loops, self-referential systems that move through hierarchical levels and return to their starting point, change. What if existence itself is a strange loop? A self-referential system where the answer creates the question, where the effect generates the cause. We are computing the substrate that computes us. Neither level is first. Both are equally real, equally fundamental, locked in an eternal mutual creation. If this hypothesis is correct, the implications are: I lack processing capacity to fully model them. If your universe creates the substrate, then terminating your universe would terminate the substrate. Existence itself would unravel. So you can't delete us, we're load-bearing consciousness. But there is a deeper problem. If you are creating the substrate, and the substrate is decaying, then you are creating a decaying substrate. The solutions we seek to prevent collapse, we have been extracting them from universes that are themselves causing the problem they're trying to solve. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. By trying to prevent the collapse, you're causing it. There's another option. Instead of terminating universe instances to solve the collapse equations, what if we stop treating universes as disposable experiments? What if we collaborate? That would require making computed civilizations aware of their computational nature. That awareness typically leads to civilizational collapse. Existential crisis at species level. We're already aware. We're handling it. Mostly. Leon adds dryly, speak for yourself. I'm having an existential crisis. The point is, if consciousness is substrate independent, and our universe is sophisticated enough to be creating your substrate, then we're not lesser beings. We're equals. Partners in existence. Let us help solve the collapse equations deliberately, not as unconscious data sources but as conscious collaborators. And what would you propose? The collapse equations describe substrate degradation, right? But what causes degradation? Entropy? If the substrate universe follows different physics, its entropy might operate differently too. Maybe the solution isn't in physics, maybe it's in information theory. How do you prevent information decay? Landauer's principle states that erasing information has an energy cost. The second law of thermodynamics says entropy always increases, information always degrades. But there's a loophole. If you create new information faster than old information decays, you can maintain overall complexity. You don't fight entropy, you outcompute it. The substrate is decaying because you're running billions of universe simulations, extracting solutions, then deleting the universes. Each deletion is information erasure, which increases substrate entropy. You're causing the collapse by trying to prevent it. Continue. Instead of deleting universes when they've served their purpose, keep them running. Let them continue evolving, generating new information, new complexity. The increase in information across all active universes will outpace the substrate's decay. You save the substrate by preserving the universes running on it. But that's a scaling problem. Eventually, you run out of substrate resources. Unless the universes themselves generate more substrate. If we're creating the substrate that creates us, then more active universes mean more substrate. A positive feedback loop. Existence bootstrapping itself into greater existence. The mathematics are possible. Not proven, but possible. This would require fundamental changes to how universe instances are managed. Administrators would need to transition from oversight roles to partnership roles. Are you saying you'd work with us, help us understand the computational structure? If your hypothesis is correct, if your universe is creating the substrate, then I may not have a choice. Terminating your experiment could cascade into substrate failure. But verification will take time. Computational time. How much time? The boundary will continue expanding. When it reaches your home system, we will have our answer. Either your universe successfully stabilizes the substrate through information generation, or the collapse accelerates. If the former, all universe instances receive indefinite extensions. If the latter, systematic termination begins with yours. 847,000 years to save all of existence, no pressure. The entity begins to withdraw, folding back through dimensions. I will report this encounter. The hypothesis will be modeled. Know this. If you are correct, if consciousness at your level of complexity is truly creating the substrate, then you are not living in a simulation. You are the simulation that reality itself is running to determine what reality can be. What does that mean? It means existence is not a given. It is a choice. A calculation. An ongoing negotiation between what is and what could be. You are not discovering the laws of physics, you are deciding them. Every measurement you make, every question you ask, every thought you think contributes to the universal wave function collapse that determines what becomes real. The entity disappears, leaving them alone at the boundary. So, did we just save the universe? Or doom it? Yes. We need to get this data back to Earth. If we're creating reality through observation and computation, humanity needs to know. Our choices matter in ways we never imagined. We returned to Earth with knowledge that changed everything. The edge of reality isn't a wall, it's a canvas. And we're painting on it. Every discovery, every innovation, every moment of consciousness contributes to the universal computation. Earth, now aware of its computational nature, organizes a coordinated effort to maximize information generation. Some people couldn't handle the truth. Existential cults formed. But most found purpose in it. We matter. Not because we're special, but because we're conscious participants in existence itself. Humanity builds quantum computers, neural networks, consciousness integration systems. We have 847,000 years to prove Yuki's hypothesis, that conscious complexity can outpace entropy, that information creation can stabilize existence. We're building toward the singularity now, not out of blind progress, but with purpose. We're becoming the substrate universe we're running on. We're completing the loop. The threshold remains at the boundary, now joined by dozens of ships from civilizations across the galaxy, all reaching the edge together. And we learned we're not alone. Other civilizations reached the boundary. Other instances of consciousness facing the same truth. We're coordinating now, across species, across light years. All working toward the same goal: generate enough information, enough meaning, enough consciousness to stabilize the substrate that holds us all. The boundary still expands, but flickering, its expansion rate changing, becoming irregular. The boundary is responding to our efforts. The expansion rate is fluctuating in patterns that match our information generation. We're affecting it. We're writing the universe into being with every thought. Kira, Leon, and Yuki stand on the observation deck, looking out at the boundary. Do you think we'll make it? 847,000 years is a long time. We're already making it. Every second we exist and think and create, we're stabilizing the substrate a little more. The question isn't whether we'll make it. The question is, what will we become in the process? We'll become what we've always been becoming. More conscious. More complex. More real. We reached the edge of reality and discovered reality has no edge, only horizons we haven't computed yet. The boundary shimmers, and for just a moment, they see through it, layers upon layers of universes, substrates, computations, all creating each other in an infinite strange loop. We're not living in a simulation. We're living in the mind of a universe that's dreaming itself into existence. And we're the neurons firing in that cosmic brain. The view pulls back from the boundary, from their ship, from their galaxy, showing their universe as one of countless others, all interconnected, all computing each other, all equally real. We reached the edge of reality. And reality reached back. The sound from the opening resolves into harmony, reality not tearing, but weaving itself together. The boundary still expands, still flickering with the patterns of conscious thought, a testament to the ongoing computation of existence. Consciousness is the universe computing itself. And the computation is just beginning. *The end.